There are new questions tonight about air travel security in this country after the arrest of 20 people at a major international airport. They all worked at the airport. But as CBS's Byron Pitts reports, the allegation is they should never have been hired.
In Boston's Logan Airport, they were security screeners, jet fuelers, people who clean terminal restrooms, all with security clearance, all with access to jet planes, the most secure areas of the airport. In all 20, foreign nationals say federal investigators use fake Social Security cards and green cards to get their jobs.
The investigation began 9 days after the September 11th terrorist attacks, in line with Operation Safe Travel.
Operation Safe Travel led to a similar crackdown at Salt Lake City International Airport just prior to the Olympics. There, 69 employees were arrested, 271 fired. 6 of the 20 busted in Boston worked for Argonbright Security, which had been cited for multiple security problems in the past. The feds have conducted similar investigations in Atlanta, Miami, and Las Vegas.
It's important to stress that none of these 20 defendants are suspected or charged with having any terrorist connections. There's no evidence to indicate that any of the charged individuals sought to do anything other than obtain gainful employment.
Employment that's now under the microscope nationwide.
They may indeed be hardworking people, but the fact remains, life changed after 9/11. We need to change as well.
Tonight, most of the suspects are in jail. They could face prison time or deportation. Dan?
Byron Pitts, live in Boston. Federal officials today announced charges against a Jordanian man who was allegedly part of a fake ID ring linked to 2 of the September 11th hijackers. The accused is charged with producing phony identification. As CBS showed you last night, it is extremely easy to obtain a fake ID, including a driver's license. For tonight's Eye on America, CBS's Sandra Hughes tests how well airlines and airports defend against fraudulent identification.
Our CBS News undercover investigation tested airport security using a $150 fake driver's license to purchase tickets on 3 major airlines.
You see your ID?
Oh, yeah, sure.
The tickets were used at 5 different airports in California and Nevada. We found that ticket and security agents paid little attention to the counterfeit driver's license, which contained a made-up name and address.
Oh, yeah.
Not one of them even asked for a second look at it or for it to be removed from the wallet. The tickets and fake ID gave us access beyond security checkpoints and onto several flights. The license was looked at almost 20 different times and never detected as a fake.
Going to LaGuardia? No, Kennedy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, JFK.
I just need to see your picture ID.
No. Ready to go?
Thank you.
We showed our undercover video to California Senator Barbara Boxer, a member of the Senate Transportation Committee.
There didn't seem to be an understanding of the problem that you've exposed. Clearly, they glanced at the ID, glanced at the person's face, glanced at the ticket, but that's not the issue. If it's all phony to begin with, it doesn't really matter.
Especially if the airlines are relying on FBI lists of known terrorists.
If they can go ahead, change their name, get a phony ID, buy a ticket in the phony name, we're way behind the 8 ball here. We'll never catch them.
Our fake ID was checked by ticket agents and security checkpoint screeners employed or under contract to 3 major airlines, United, American, and Southwest. All 3 airlines and the Federal Aviation Administration declined to talk on camera about our investigation. One former FAA security official isn't surprised the government wouldn't talk about something he says it's ignored for years.
I think that the ID process is basically bogus. It's one of those make you feel good, comforting things, but in effect does nothing for security.
We showed our counterfeit license to fraud expert Chris Bonzer before we turned it over to law enforcement.
Oh, this is an excellent ID.
But he says properly trained airport workers should be able to detect it as a fake.
By looking at this, I would be able to identify this immediately as being counterfeit.
The California Department of Motor Vehicles offered to train California airport employees, but the airports never took them up on it. This handheld scanner that costs as little as $90 can detect a counterfeit driver's license by reading the magnetic stripe on the back. 39 states and Washington, D.C. currently use the security stripe feature.
For a very, very small investment, you can have technology that will verify that document and keep the bad guy off the plane.
The scanner is being used at Boston's Logan Airport, and the federal government says it will start using it at Baltimore Washington International Airport in the near future. But there are 200 different forms of state government-issued identification cards.
Today, there aren't any minimum features that are required. We need to have both overt and covert features on the driver's license.
Lewis wants one standard driver's license, an idea opposed by many privacy advocates. But she says it may be the only way to stay a step ahead of the counterfeiters and help keep the nation's skies secure. In Los Angeles, this is Sandra Hughes for Eye on America.
A possible solution to the fake ID problem is what's called a smart card. It would include a photograph, fingerprint, and detailed personal information and would be issued only after a background check. In a CBS News poll out tonight, half the public said they would be willing to carry a smart card. 44% would not. As for airport security, less than half of Americans think the government has done enough to tighten it. Only 38% say the airlines have done all they can. It's the Wednesday edition of the CBS Evening News, and up next, a key defense witness testifies in the murder trial of Andrea Yates. It's her husband.